Okay, so this video is about the reason why intelligence evolved. Now, the simplest explanation for why intelligence evolved was to tell an organism when to stop and when to go. Now, a fish, as it was swimming through the ocean, all it had to do was know which direction it was going to swim in. And during the Cambrian explosion, predators started chasing fish, and so fish had to avoid predators, and so they had to go towards food, but away from predators, and they had to know when to stop, because if they didn't stop, they would waste all their energy. So the thing is that then you had lizards, then you had mammals, and you also had birds. But the thing is, when an organism is hardwired, it has instincts. So, for example, if a frog sees a fly or sees a blob, if a frog sees a blob, it's going to try to eat the blob no matter what it is, because there are no predators that look like blobs to it in its evolutionary history. It did not encounter humans for hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. It was just there for 100 million years without humans, and so that's how it evolved. And so the thing is that but it did recognize things. So it recognized a fly, for example. It recognized bugs, but it also recognized other things. So it's like a rabbit recognizes a hawk going over the sky, and that's instinctual to the rabbit. Humans, we have archetypes. So the thing is that our amygdala is where we is connected to the hippocampus, and so the amygdala is all the things that are instinctual to the lizard brain. So the lizard brain knows about fighting, which is anger. It knows about running away, which is fear. It knows about stopping, so that it doesn't move. And so if it doesn't move, it can't be seen. Like children think that they can't be seen if they cover their face, and that's entirely true for a lizard. So the thing is that, but archetypes are more so with the entire neocortex when it connects to the amygdala and the hippocampus. So the lizard would understand that it would still be able to learn, because it had a hippocampus also. So it would know when to fight, it would know when to run away, and all those things. But with humans, we have fractals. So we know what a man looks like, we know what a woman looks like. Those are highly built into us from birth. So it's like, I don't know, it's just that, like, we know what a predator looks like. We know what prey animals look like. A dog will chase anything that runs away from it no matter what. So it's like, if you run away from a dog, the dog's going to chase you and it's going to bite you, because that's what wolves used to do. Is they ran until they caught the animal, because if they didn't caught the animal, they would die of starvation. And that's why the dogs still chase people, even though they're domesticated. And so the thing is that so archetypes, like in your dreams, like, it's like you have dreams about your mother, you have dreams about your father, you have dreams about the people around you, you have dreams about school, you have dreams about all sorts of things. So the thing is that it's the way the human brain stores things in a holographic, fractal-like nature. So the thing is that the reason we're able to store things is because just compression. So we compress everything inside of us. So everything everything around us would happen to be remembered in a three-dimensional way. So when we remember things, we're making predictions, stop and go predictions. So the thing is that what I have this is actually where I get to the part about my theory about how to create artificial intelligence. So when let's start over. So the thing is that in order to store information, you have to predict what that information is going to be. And in order to predict that information, what it's going to be, you have to have your brain predisposed to what the new information is going to be. So that means that if you encounter something new, that information is going to be stored in your brain fractally and recurrently. It's going to be recursively stored. So that means that as we build up representations, those representations get denser and denser and denser. So that means that people that draw, like let's take Leonardo da Vinci. He painted the Mona Lisa, and his ability to paint the Mona Lisa had to do with the angle of the face from every direction. So that's building up a holographic, three-dimensional, even a four-dimensional representation of things if you include the facial movements and all that. And when in Japan they have to draw the animations so that it moves. So as I was saying, that in order to store new information, we have to put it in there somehow with the old information. So that means that your brain is wiring itself up so that when it receives new information, it can direct the information internally inside your head in every direction possible, so that when it comes in, it doesn't become surprised. So whenever something surprises you, that means that your brain is rearranging itself so that it doesn't become surprised by that same information again, without losing the information that you have previously learned. And now in artificial intelligence, this is called catastrophic forgetting. And so the thing is that at the beginning of artificial intelligence, they only had this thing called planners. So, and these planners weren't three-dimensional, and these planners weren't four-dimensional either. So the thing is that these planners would arrange blocks and say, put block A on top of block C on top of block B, and in order to do so, it would have to compute all possible block positions and then move the blocks in the optimal fashion. Now, that's exactly what the human brain does, but the human brain does it in such a way that it does it through a mesh of all possible perceptions going with itself at the same time. So that's why whenever you learning something new, you have to memorize the rules for it. So what are the rules for math? What are the rules for fixing a car? What are the rules for operating your computer? But the thing is that this all has to do with stop and go. So your brain is finding an equilibrium with itself. So as information comes in, it finds an equilibrium so that the pathways are always coming to a steady state. so this is how organisms function to begin with anyway, is that an organism's cell releases energy and absorbs energy without falling apart. So your entire a human being does not fall apart for exactly 120 years, just about. The longest recorded human beings have not fallen apart for 120 years. And so the thing is that your brain does not fall apart as it's taking things in. And so my whole theory of artificial intelligence is that the brain rearranges itself before information comes into it. So if we were to have 5 possible things that, as a simple explanation, it's actually millions of things at the same time. But let's say that 5 things happen at the same time. We have 5 possible forks, and one of those forks happens to be the one that gets activated, and then that fork goes backwards into itself, and the 4 other forks disappear. And then after it's been completed like that, several more forks come around, and it builds up layers and layers and layers of itself, and it does this in real time. So you don't need to try to arrange all the blocks at once. You just have to remember very, very small recursive loops until it gets to the top, whereas it keeps folding and folding and folding until all representations in a 3-dimensional scale allow you to manipulate the world in such a way as to contain everything. So it's just that it anticipates. The artificial intelligence would anticipate the perceptions it's about to receive, and then compress those down into its entire holographic configuration, and then build up more layers, and then prune those layers away that does not compress the information complete enough. But it's completely doing this as a continuous way of doing it. So I would say that that's how we learn is and that's how the artificial intelligence would learn, is that it would come up with all these possibilities, and then one of those possibilities would become real, and that would become part of its system. And once it becomes more and more complex by all these folding inwards of all these possibilities that actually happen, it creates the possibilities from that pool of information that is happening, and it's not creating possibilities from things that won't happen. So, for example, I don't need to know how many swimming pools I can fit on the moon if I don't even have a swimming pool in my backyard. So I don't need to think about all the things about building bases on the moon unless I'm an astronaut. But if I'm a person building a dam in the Rio Grande, I have to understand all the information about the Rio Grande, not the moon exactly. So I'm going to fold all that information into myself. All those possibilities will branch off, and then they'll fold back inward, and that'll create representations that'll help me do it in my current situation. But I'm not going to say I'm going to create every single video that's physically possible in the known universe. So it's like a high definition television screen would the number of pictures you could have on a television screen is like 2 to the power of 1,000,000 or something like that. So it's like so it's like a million zeros. No, it's bigger than a Googleplex. bigger than a googolplex to the googolplex to the googolplex to the googolplex power. So you're not going to do all of that. So the whole thing is that you're taking all the possibilities that you have learned and you're mixing them together, and that mixing together will create the foundation. So we started out with the fish brain, which is the dopamine channel to eat plankton, and then we escaped predators and ate more plankton, and then we had to walk on the land, and we had to know how to move our legs, and then we had to just hunt and use tools. So when we're doing all of this, the reason why some people have more intelligence than others is because they're able to the possibilities that go on in their head is going on in just like a better way, or not a better way, but like faster, and I don't know, you're just absorbing the environment better, and you're absorbing the internal world better, so you're aware of everything, and when you're aware of everything, well, I guess that's the thing, is that like on intelligence tests, they're measuring how many things you can move inside your brain. So for example, if you have my theory, for example, for what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, is that they're able to do about 16 things in their head at the same time. So that means that if you were to I don't know, it's like if you were playing chess, for example, you would be able to say, okay, so on the chessboard, I can know how to move 16 pieces all at the same time, their pieces and my pieces, and so that would be able to be many moves ahead. So so I think that just if I were to make an analogy, the Übermensch would be able to think 16 moves ahead, or 16 layers deep of possibilities. So that would mean about I wouldn't say 2 to the power of 16, but I would say that it would build up. So that's what the Übermensch would be able to do. So, but I mean, if we take a more concrete example, drawing. That's the thing, is that the vision system sees details, and then the front of the brain puts those details together. So the back of the brain takes the details and just has them there so that we're not surprised by anything, but the front of the brain puts the depth of what possibilities are there. So that means that the compression algorithm is faster. So most people think with the back of their brain, not the front of their brain, and the reason they do that is because they only have to deal with one thing at a time, or 4 things at a time. But if you were to think about 16 things at a time, or 25 things at a time, that would be the number of parts that you would be able to put together. So if you're thinking about chess, the depth of the moves ahead that you're able to calculate. So you already have, in a chess master, you already have all the moves that are possible that you know will lead to failure and success, and you go towards the ones that are successful by taking away the possibilities that are unsuccessful. And when people do that, if you see 16 possibilities that were successful and 16 that were unsuccessful, and then you evaluate those so that you do them by a gradient, that would make it so that that would make it so that you I don't know, it's just like we do that with technology. So when you program a computer, it's just what you know. So what you know is the knowledge of what you know, and what you can do with that knowledge is rearrange it. So when you're rearranging things, if you can rearrange 16 things at the same time, that's pretty good. And I think that I can only do about 4 things at a time. But I don't know, the IQ test is very, very different. It's not really telling you what you can do, really. But I don't know. So the thing is, I guess I'm going to come to the conclusion now. So the thing is that putting things together is a stop-and-go mechanism. And we create possibilities, and they fold into each other, and those create the rearrangements for new possibilities. And so the thing is, it's always confirming whether or not we should take away some possibilities or put some new possibilities in. And that's how the compression algorithm should work. And that artificial intelligence would be able to do this with more than 100 things at the same time. So if the average person can think of 7 things at once, like I have to do this, I have to do that, the artificial intelligence would think, oh, I have to do these 100 things at once, and I'm going to look in my environment and just just whatever I'm doing, I know everything that I could do. I'm going to do it this way because this is the best way. So it's looking for the best possible way, and then it's putting that back into its storage. So that's both perception and executive control. So that means that the executive control will be very huge in artificial intelligence, and the perception would be recurrently compressing all those new informations of confirming or denying the possibilities that would actually work. So it's like if you were think about playing a video game in your head. There's a puzzle I have to solve that has 100 pieces to it. I have to put all those 100 pieces together, and I did it in my head. And now all I have to do is go out there in the video game, take all those pieces, put them together, and use that as a tool. And so that's how the artificial intelligence will work, is that it takes things, puts all the puzzle pieces together, uses them as tools, and remembers all the successful things and all the failures, because maybe you can't get to the one puzzle piece and you need the puzzle pieces over here to get to that puzzle piece. So it's all very complicated, but in the end it's all about stop and go. So you do this, you get that, you put them all together in parallel. That's called control theory.